I am doing well. How are you, Rob?
I'm doing great. How's your week been so far?
It's been very busy as usual. Proud to that we've made it to our second show. Like already, we're at our second show. It's hard to believe.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. No, it's been last week's show was a lot of fun. But we'll see how this week's go. I know I didn't send out the advertisement for the show, and I was kind of lame on that. I should have done that earlier, but it's just it is what it is. I just want to see what type of traction it gets and see if advertising, not advertising, see how it does. With us talking about our show last week
Mhm.
and then me having my show on Sunday or Saturday. Well, it is Sunday morning. So, um, it seems like it's picking up traction. So, anyway.
Yeah, I'm able to check out your Saturday show off and on. Sometimes I join. Those are some odd internship work hours at that time for me, but I'm fascinated how large your group is growing and the questions that are being asked and an interaction with the communication is fantastic. I'm just blown away by that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's crazy on like last week. It's funny because Dawn is here. Hey Dawn, how's it going?
Hey, Don.
Um, Dawn had a what? Oh my god. Um, I hope she's okay. So Dawn just says that one of our users or viewers on Saturday
Uh,
show has COVID. Hope she's okay. But like I was saying,
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, it's sad. Hopefully she's okay. Sandy, your prayers are with us. We're going out to you. So anyway, like I was saying, so on Saturday night, well, Sunday morning, Dawn asked a question, right, Dawn? And the response that she got was just mind blowing. I think we were all mind blown with the response that she got.
Can you share?
Just with um God, I don't even
Yeah.
remember exactly what it was. Maybe she can share it with us and I'll put it up. Um
It's been recorded, so we
oh
have
no,
it.
it was
Go ahead.
recorded. So if anybody ever wants to catch up, we're talking about my Saturday night show. Um anyway, we yeah, so my Saturday night shows are recorded on YouTube. Um So if you want to rewatch them, you can. Anyway, this premise of the show, we're just going to chat about ITC communication and the paranormal, just in general. Josh is an audio engineer by trade. Um, I I'm work for a music company. I do basically support and voiceovers. Working with voice actors to do voiceovers. So that's what I do. Um, so anyway, we're just talking about the premise. I mean, the
Hi,
last
Heidi.
week's show. So yeah, I've been playing a lot with reverse audio. Um, I didn't come up with the circuit. That was that was kind of discovered by the Holtes. Well, Steve Holte.
Right, that's correct.
Um, and and I'm just experimenting with it. I'm using one of my circuits that is a radio that doesn't have any static. So I adjusted the sweep rate I played around with the different sweep rates, but I found using reverse, um, it sweeping at 160 milliseconds. That's the speed of how fast it goes through the radio frequencies. In reverse, seem to have incredible results. Oh, that's right. So, here's a question. I don't know why I'm getting these pop-ups.
She said a few times.
Yeah, and it said skinheads a few times. Um, so yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And it said murdered, and then it said skinheads. Here it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure listening back in context, it's exponentially more powerful, but I get the gist of what happened.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're just talking about, real spirit communication, using, in this case, we're using, a sweeping radio, um, that's attached to a reverse, it changes the voice from forward to reverse speech. So yeah, it's pretty cool, and the results are just amazing. And then also during the session, so I always have a REM pod set up during the live sessions that I do, and we get spirit interacting with the REM pod constantly. Um, it happens weekly. I'm to the point to where, I explain to people, because I do my sessions by myself, which isn't a good thing, but you just have to make do with what you have, and what you're able to do. So, I try not to show any emotion when we're doing a ghost box session. I try not to get excited. I try not to feed spirit any emotion, because I just don't want to set myself up for something to happen. So, when the red pod goes off, or things happen, or we're getting hits on command, or we're getting just amazing results during the sessions, I don't show any emotion. It's not that I'm trying to hide anything, trying to show that I'm faking anything, because I'm not. It's just because of me being in a haunted location, because my house has 4 spirits, and I don't want to set myself up to be vulnerable. But anyway, so if you guys have any questions, just type in like a Q, um with a dash, and then type in your question. I'll pull up the question, and then Josh and one of us will answer it. So if you have a question for me, you have a question for Josh, just throw up your question. Um, so Josh, go ahead and talk a little bit about ITC and how long you've been doing it, what your favorite box is, just things like that.
It really started with me being involved with audio and music at a very young age. I was always involved with either playing an instrument or recording myself or others. And throughout my life, I developed that interest, and that passion developed further. Right around in my 20s, around the time when a lot of popular mechanics articles were coming out, Yahoo groups were forming, uh, other audio engineers and myself were discovering these, as you would say, voices that weren't supposed to be there. A lot of engineers in my industry didn't think much of it, or just accepted it for what it is, or didn't care because it was a job and they just wanted to go home. It depended on the person. It really caught my interest. It really caught my passion, my curiosity. And I started recording these voices like others were over a period of 10 years, and eventually wound up on itcvoices.org, my good friend Tim Woolworth, where I learned about Frank Sumption, Steve Holte, Ron Ricketts, Joe Ciappi, and Rich Georgina, so many other people that I'm leaving out. And really, that's how my interest started. And I really aligned myself with the ITC research community in terms of audio engineering and what I could contribute, in terms of how to review things maybe more efficiently, and some cool ITC experiments I'm hoping to reveal over time here on our show.
No, that's awesome. It's just amazing on some of the things, like with me. um Everybody knows, Josh knows, I used to kind of, I think, when you first came on, I mean, when Josh and I first met, I used to kind of joke about ITC, and he knew that. I always thought it was a joke. I would always think it was like a broken radio. I was just like, this is garbage. Um, what the hell are we? What? How is this even spirit communication? All we're doing is picking up radio snippets. And how can you say it's radio or spirit communication? So I would always laugh. And then the SB7 um was released god years later.
Mhm.
But the original SB7 was pretty amazing because it had no static. There was no artificial white noise integrated.
It's a solid radio. I mean, it is. It produces good results.
Right. So and then because I got to see one of the prototypes, and I heard
That's
it, and I
right.
was like, "Wow, that sounds pretty good." And then they they said, "No, we need to add static to that." So then they artificially put in some white noise, right?
Right.
So, and then it just became what it is. And I just was like, oh my God, this is a joke. Right. So that was me for a long time, for a long time. And then I got a hold of a box and I was playing around with it and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what the fascination is with this because it's just picking up radio snippets and it's just radio chatter. So I started playing around with Andy's box more and more and started getting crazy responses in a location where there wasn't a lot of radio to pick up on, just because it was in an old jail. So there was a lot of cement. I was picking up maybe 4 stations, maybe. And I was in downtown, it was in LA. I was in Boyle Heights or Lincoln Heights. So there
Interesting.
wasn't a lot of radio in that area because
Right.
of the building.
Right.
Um, but I started getting names. I started getting a lot of things coming up that I'm like, there's no way that this is radio. So that's basically how I got into ITC. And then shortly after, um, I bought a Geo box um,
Uh,
to see what it was about, right? And so I ripped it apart because we were all talking. That's a fire hazard, right? And I was playing with it. And I was saying, "Look at what piece of garbage this thing is." So I ripped it apart. And I built one.
right.
Um, and Katie started telling me, we started talking about some things. So then I started a project, and here we are today. So that's where it all started.
And I think you brought up a really great point. The ITC communication, at least that's radio based, really knocked me off my feet when I started hearing more boutique boxes. And what I mean by a boutique box is simply something that's custom made, custom tailored, and designed for this research. The Frank's boxes, Steve's circuits, Ron's circuits, Joe's circuits, those were all just so impressive and really when you were in the presence of one and you heard what was coming through, those were the moments where you saw people's jaws hit the floor and they looked at you with these blank stares like, are you kidding? Did I really just hear an intimate joke that I share with my wife or husband that only we know, that only we say in, in the privacy of our home, that really just came through the radio. You know what I mean? And you hear those things coming through those boutique boxes and those really set the field apart in my opinion. And I think one of the goals of this show is to help bring people to those box builders because I still think there's so much value and to learn from that.
No, absolutely. Just because so the way that we started talking about this show was
Hey, Katie. Hey, Susan.
there's just so much. The ITC field has lost its place in the paranormal. Sadly, there is still a few people holding on. And what I'm saying by that is the true pioneers and the true ITC researchers are basically being forgotten. There's a lot of people out there um, faking a lot of things. Um, and it's sad to say, um, being a person that works with voiceovers, and Josh being an audio engineer, you can tell what people are doing. And it's so easy to manipulate, so easy to recreate. And when people are saying that they're talking to dead celebrities, I'm not calling out any names. There used to be just a couple. Now you can't even count them on two hands. It's they're becoming more and more, I guess, prevalent out there, and which is sad. So that's why I'm saying all of the true ITC developers and researchers are being lost because of certain individuals that are making the ITC field basically nobody believes in ITC anymore because it's not being taken serious.
Yeah, I think, we live in a society that wants instant gratification. And if and when people do hear about this research or what we do, they want to see the results instantly. They want to hear something instantly. And what better way than to copy and fake a celebrity voice that's available anywhere in the world or the internet and, layer it over a piece of audio? I mean, that's the quickest way to get instant gratification. And the problem I think ITC research faces is the majority of the world who does know about this, that's what they see. They see the Hollywood-esque entertainment, instant gratification. A friend of the show, a friend of ours, Katie Holte, basically, she was right. She said it's a waste of time what we're trying to do. It's noble, but it is a waste of time. And there's validity to that because you can't stop someone from doing this. You can't stop someone from doing anything, really. But what we can do is educate and draw a line in the sand and say, okay, we can't stop you from doing this. You have free will to do this, but this is entertainment. This is fraudulent, slightly criminal, depending on the money being exchanged and the level of naivete on the person who's paying for the service. And we draw the line in the sand and we look at the other side and say, this is the real IT research that's going on. It hasn't stopped. We're still here. And we're also going to bring to light a lot of people that don't come out in the public. I have a lot of colleagues who at university level, not officially funded by the university, but are using equipment in their off time to do this research, but they don't want to come forward. They see the field for what it is, and they also know that they can't speak on behalf of the university. They're representing a university. So a lot of people are quiet about this, but I think it may be time to kind of step forward one step and say, this is what we're still doing. This is what we can show you. And in the shows coming, we're obviously going to show you how Rob and I fake a sound clip, what that sounds like, and what obviously Rob is doing on Saturday is a real session and nothing is faked.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, the sessions that I do are totally, 100% legit. I didn't even know where I was going to go with that show. It was just doing some experimenting on a Saturday night at 3 a.m. Let's see what type of results we get with doing a ghost box session at 3 a.m. I've had crazy investigations. I've had crazy results doing any type of research at 3 a.m. I'm not going to go into details. But once so I was doing some live sessions, people started asking questions on trying to connect to family members, trying to reach out to, whatever. And I kind of was on the fence about even doing that. But I'm like, you know what? This isn't this show. My show on Saturdays, it's not about me. It's about the viewers. I'm going to do whatever the viewers ask me to do. So if somebody wants to say, hey, is my grandma, Ellen out there? And they ask that question, if you're out there, can you please say your name or say my middle name? And all of a sudden their middle name comes through.
Right.
Who am I to say that that's, not her grandmother? I can't say that. I don't know who it is. Correct. But there are things that are coming through that are just like, oh my God, this is crazy. And, now thanks to, and anyway, so it's like now, thanks to, like I said, to Katie and Steve Holte, I'm using a circuit that they've been using for a long time. And I just picked one. I had it, and I told this to to Josh. I've had it, put away for a while, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try something. So just because somebody else was talking about it, and I said, you know what? I have one somewhere, and then I dug it out, and I already put it together a long time ago. I never used it. It was just ready to go. I found the code on a chat. It was a discussion board, uploaded it, um, tried it out, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I threw it in a drawer. Um, anyway, so
Right.
I started experimenting with it with one of my circuits and started playing around with sweep rates. And I've been playing around with sweep rates for, God, a few years, when I was debunking a lot of apps that were using reverse speech. I'm not going to say who developed those apps, but I was ripping the APK files apart, playing around with the files and playing them back and even playing them through the app. And I was like, oh my God, this is garbage. There's no communication coming through. Yes, well, you might get something once in a blue moon, but not that great. I mean, it wasn't as good as what it could be. So I started playing around with these audio files. I started playing around with the sweep rate, and I was trying at different sweep rates. I know I'm getting a little technical, but then I found the sweet spot. And then I was like, okay, this sounds cool. I was playing it through, and I was even just thinking about something and I was getting responses. Something happened to me, I was getting responses about that incident, and I was like, holy crap. So, and this was all reverse speech. So I said, you know what? I'm going to use it live on my show. So what? It was like 2 weeks ago, I think I did it for the first time, and just the results were amazing. And it was so much easier for people that don't know anything about ITC to interpret what we were getting, the responses we were getting. They were like, this is so much easier to interpret via forward speech. And I said, no, absolutely. I was thinking the same thing. So yeah, it was kind of crazy. But anyway, so that's where all of that came from.
Right. We have a few questions in the comments. Carl's asked a question and Craig's asked a question. I don't know which one you see on your.
Let's see. Let me go up. I can go to Craig.
Rob, that may be your field. I don't know that I've used that app. That may be your. If you've used it, I don't know.
I never heard of it. I don't use apps. God, the last app that I used, honestly, during any type of investigations or experimenting with ITC was the Echovox. Most apps that I have tried, I mean, there's another one that was pretty good, but then they started updating it way too much. The Sono X10. So if you were somewhere where you didn't get any radio stations, there was a program called the Sono X10, for both Android and iOS. And basically it was scanning through IP radio stations, and that actually worked pretty good.
Yeah, it looked like you mentioned in your question it was phonetical, so it sounds like it's a sound bank with phonetical clips or fragments of sounds, consonants, vowels, things like that. Definitely an interesting tool to play with. I've never personally used the app, but I'm kind of getting the gist of that's what you're recommending. I mean, what you've recommended to us. I'll definitely check it out, though. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I'm not opposed to trying anything, just to see what the results may be. But anyway,
I will say, in terms of apps besides Echovox, if Katie Holte's online, the Holte's had a whole suite of apps that I'm so sad to see leave the app stores. The Joe's Box app, Frank's Box 39, I had tremendous success with that. And then the live stream, which we could do a show on in itself, how Steve had his forward box, reverse box, 12587, Frank's Box 120. I mean, on your phone, you could pull up a Frank's Box 120 or Steve's reverse box. Just fantastic resources that they made available to everyone. And if you had a chance to use them, you know how good they were. And if you didn't, I'm sorry you missed out.
Here's another question.
I, in general, randomizing voices that are banked in an app, I find that that could be manipulated. And I feel like that's still giving a resource or a tool that could be manipulated into phonetical speech or words. I've had experience with similar things. Nothing I've developed personally, but I have had good success with that. What do you think, Rob?
Like I was saying earlier, I've tried it, and most of what most of the audio banks that people are using, they're taking they're going to the public domain archives and getting audiobooks, and just reversing clips of the audiobooks and playing it at that rate where they're being read back, and to try to get a response out of that, it's like one in good luck getting, it'll be like 1 in 1,000.
Yeah, it's the frequency may not be as noticeable, but at the same time, it's possible. I guess if you're asking, is it possible? I would say
It's
yes,
possible.
it's possible, right?
It is possible, but I mean, like I said, for you to get a successful session out of it, like I said, it's going to be, you're going to be frustrated more than anything.
Right.
And most people that use apps, like what Josh was saying, I think we all get to that point to where, whether it's investigating the paranormal, whether it's doing ITC sessions, whether it's doing scrying, whether it's doing, I do a lot of scrying also. So what that is you'll get a black mirror, you'll put a candle in front of the mirror, and I'll use really high frequency, 963 at 963 hertz. It's a particular frequency that is used for spirit communication, and I've experimented a lot with it, and my results have been phenomenal, especially when you're doing scrying. I could do that and have a wave generator, basically like beach sounding waves, and disembodied voices will start coming through. It's crazy. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's anything is possible, but just with people using audio banks and reversing the audio banks, it's kind of crazy. But anyway,
it's possible. I mean, it is possible. You can get a response.
Katie, I'm not mentioning any names. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. So it's not all it's actually from like 860 hertz on up. And it's crazy. I used to have a signal generator, or a frequency generator, and it went all the way up past 1,000 hertz. It was like 1,100 hertz or something like that. So I would pump audio through that. I would set it at a certain frequency and had line in, and then I'll pump audio through it and play it back at that hertz. And it was crazy.
I need to hear more about that. I don't know that we've talked a lot about that. We should.
No, I mean, it's something that I was experimenting with. I know a couple other people that were, that and full spectrum cameras, and these aren't taking out the IR filter. This is actual full spectrum cameras. Yeah, anyway.
Very good. No, great questions though. Someone mentioned something about ghost radar. I don't have experience with that. I'll have to check that out.
It's a joke. It's nothing.
So you mean that sarcastically, or is it like
no,
a purposeful prank?
No, I mean, it's somebody wrote an app and basically it looks like a little radar screen, and then it has like a little blip. So if a spirit is near you, it'll start going off. But anyway,
Okay. So in terms of the phone, it uses its sensors in the phone. I mean, what else would it use? Or unless
yeah,
it's just okay.
yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Some of the questions are like way too long to throw up there. So if anybody has like any questions, try to throw a question up that's maybe 15 characters or less. Because if we throw up something like this will work, but if it's anything longer, it won't come through. It'll be cut off. Like not that. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, where there is energy and frequency, and we're still trying to pinpoint exactly the science behind that, which could be an ongoing endeavor for the rest of humankind. We don't know yet. But I think where so far what we know, where there's energy and frequency, the communication, this spirit can manipulate that. So even if it's a joke app, it's possible that something, real and actual can happen. I don't know much about these apps, so I can't speak too much to them, but
Right.
it's possible. I mean, again, where there's energy and frequency, the communication happens. Ghost
Yeah,
Box Live. Yeah, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh, Katie corrected me. The live stream was Ghost Box Live, and just the series of we'll talk more about the Holtes and their contributions later, but just stay up with them and what they're doing, because it's always fascinating what they're doing. Oh, Phil, that's a great question, and Rob, I'm just I hope I didn't cut you off, but
No, it's fine.
I think a big purpose of the show was to help direct people to the ghost box builders that are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into this field. And we've mentioned Steve and Katie Holte, but my good friend, who I'm hosting a podcast with, Rob Hernandez, builds some fantastic boxes and is working with reverse speech. And there's so many others: Jay Prather, Katie Stafford, William Pimblott. I hope I'm not mispronouncing his name. Mastercraft boxes. There's still some people out there. I don't know if Andy's still building boxes. I hope he is. But as the show goes on, we're going to get you in touch with these people. And if you want to get in touch with Rob and I personally, we can get you right over to someone who can get you a custom box, catered basically however you want it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's still a lot of us out there that do build boxes. So Katie's been doing some great work.
Yeah.
As of late, Katie and Steve Holte.
Have you heard their AM random sweep? I just heard it last night on Facebook.
It sounds good.
I'm an audio purist, so that's exactly what I want to hear out of a ghost box. An analog circuit, that is, of course.
Yeah. I'm more doing an FM sweep that has no static. That's basically what I've been doing. It's just because I get a lot of people requesting something without static. So yes, thanks to Steve, I did have a circuit before. Steve sold me some of his sweeping circuits, and I did have a radio that I was working on. I kind of scrapped it because I just put it away. Actually, I threw it somewhere. I have so much stuff like just thrown places in a box because I'll work on something and I don't have time to work on it. So I'll finish it, throw it in a box, and not play with it for a while. So, anyway, so I just get a lot of requests for boxes without static because that's what people want. And they want to put them into, they want to put them into like an amp with reverb and things like that. Everybody has their own taste. I don't really care for it, but you know what? I just cater to whatever people want. That's it.
I think as a box builder, that's a great policy, because whether or not we have personal feelings on reverb is, regardless of what the end user wants. I mean, that's your business. So,
yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So again, get in contact with us, Phil. Rob, we'll make it possible, and we'll get you in touch with some very knowledgeable box builders, including Rob, who's right here on the show.
So Carl, here's a uh, this is a topic that I kind of tell people do not do. Um, I don't follow my own advice because I've been doing this for so long. For those of you that do watch my show on Saturdays, everybody knows how activity can pick up when I'm doing my shows. Like last Saturday, I have okay. So I've been investigating. Here comes the paranormal side. I've been investigating for many, many, many years. Too many years to even. I'm not even going to say how long, because I'll age myself. Let's just say that there was no major ghost shows. The last ghost show during that time when I was investigating for the at when I first started, sightings was on. Let's just put it that way. And unsolved mysteries.
Ooh, you're dating yourself. Careful.
So that's how long I've been investigating. So yes, I've had experiences with some bad spirits. Let's just put it that way. But I'm so protected that I'm not afraid of anything. People are like, dude, you like, where's Rob? And I'm like running into somewhere that, I'm chasing a shadow figure. I'm chasing an apparition. And people are like, oh my God, he's freaking going down there. And the client said, don't go down there by yourselves. And I'm running down to that location or into that area. And so, I mean, I don't get scared easy. And it was funny because the activity on a full moon, I have never ever had an experience during a full moon. Not even one piece of evidence have I ever gathered. Not even an EVP in a really haunted location on a full moon have I ever captured anything. Anyway, so this past weekend, it was a full moon, and freaking the activity in my little studio was going crazy. There was banging on the mic. I was this far. I was literally 2 hand fists away from the mic, and something slapped the mic. The light above me, something hit the light and it was swaying. There was a shadow person seen standing right by me, or a shadow standing right here, and people were seeing it on camera, and I just saw something out of the corner of my eye. I looked. Then there was more banging, like over this way. We heard a disembodied scream. It was just like crazy. And where I live, it's like remote. Josh knows.
Yeah, I've been to your property. Yeah, it's. Well, I used to live like a mile from you, which was even crazier. That's a different story. But yeah, I do know your property and area. Yeah, it's remote.
So yeah, there's nobody out at, my neighbors are like, I can't even throw a rock and hit their house. They're that far away. Right. So and there's nobody out. My neighbors they're older.
Quiet,
it's a really quiet,
yeah, it's a
quiet neighborhood. Most of the neighbors, I never even see my neighbors. Let's just put it that way. Yet alone hear people screaming.
Right. Oh, I'm sure you're the perfect neighbor. They're like, this guy moved over here. We're not going to talk to him. He's got radios going off. And
exactly. They see they see the neon lights shining through, through the window.
Well, now we know why no one's socializing with you then.
No, exactly. So anyway, I'm just saying, so with that being said, there's so much that you have to, that you can open yourself up to. But if you want to handle that, then go for it. But I wouldn't suggest doing any of it. You never want to investigate your own house. Never. If you do, have somebody else come and do it for you. Because you're opening yourself up. You always set boundaries with spirit. If the REM pod, so I have a REM pod here. It looks like a book. So so the lights are here. That thing will go off, and I could play a clip. That thing will go off on command. We'll ask people, a spirit to set it off, and it'll go off on command. We'll tell it if it's so and so, set it off again. It'll go off on command. It's crazy. So yeah, there's just a lot. So yes, I do that here. But yes, I do set boundaries for spirit. And somebody else saw that, because if that's going off, I ignore it. If I'm not walking through it and communicating with it, I ignore it. I'm just setting the boundaries, saying, look, I don't have time to talk to you right now. I'm busy. And when I'm ready to communicate with you, then I'll do it. So,
Right. It looks like I left someone out. Carl Fisher, I do apologize. Yes, you're doing amazing work too as well. And like I said, I can't, for me to remember everyone, I should have a list next to me, but definitely, again, we'll get you to the right people. Yes, and then someone mentioned you were in the bottom right-hand corner. I think that, there we go. Now I can see you too. That's better.
I wasn't, I was more into the chats. I get so worked up into the chats that I don't even think about that.
I'm seeing, it looks like Dawn and Sharon are mentioning Ed. Have we talked about spirit techs at all? Or the common people that come through? I don't know if what you were working with on Saturday.
So a couple of things. So there's a spirit here. His name is Ed.
Oh, okay. So it's okay.
And he's tied with the little girl that's here.
You've mentioned this. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyway, so Ed comes through a lot, but then, and the little girl that he's tied to is Emma. So there is a little girl. So two of the spirits I experienced, a week after I moved into the house, was an older gentleman who smokes. Come to find out, he was my landlord's husband that passed. And then there was a little girl that was coming through a couple of times. First time I saw her, I heard a little girl at the foot of my bed. She wasn't there because I woke up and I was like, what the hell? And so I'm just sitting there and I'm hearing this little girl. All of a sudden I'm like, all right, whatever. And so I turn over to go back to sleep, and I saw like something out of the corner, like out of my peripheral vision. So I turned over and looked, and she was standing at the foot of my bed. And then she walked out and disappeared. Another time she came through, I had a ghost box. I just came back from the Queen Mary for an overnight. I was there like all weekend. Brought the box home, set it in my kitchen, and the box was turned off. Her voice came through the spirit box. And I'm like, what the hell? So I walked in there, and the box is powered off. I opened up the box and just was like, well, maybe the amp is on for some weird reason. No, the box is off. I put it back down, and then she spoke through the box again saying, I'm over here. Talk to me. And then I'm just like, ignored it. I was like, I'm not even dealing with that right now. Then there's a woman here that a few people have seen. And then we started seeing that man, or hearing Ed come through quite a bit during our ghost box sessions. Anyway.
And that's amazing that when you're conducting these sessions, you're having, from what it sounds like, disembodied voices and shadow figures, other things you've described in the sessions. And as long as I've been doing this, and it's kind of answering a previous question, and Rob, we share so much in common and we agree on so much. This is the only place I feel like,
Bye, Kitty.
I don't know if I'm right about this or what the case is, but I have done the research in my home and in controlled environments at a studio where I work. I haven't had any issues. Now, I'm not recommending anyone do this, obviously, because you have to do what's right for you. And I would always concede to Rob's experience with this, because he has been investigating for so much longer. So take Rob's advice, but I do want to document. I haven't had shadow figures, or I feel like when the box is off, that's it. I'm a dad of two beautiful boys. I live a normal life, and when the box is off, that's it. I mean, maybe it's those boundaries I've set. Maybe it's the job I'm doing, in the pursuit of ITC research, and that's really if maybe there's a pure aspect to that. Maybe that's why I'm protected. Or Rob, we mentioned that. I haven't had any problems in my home. Again, I'm not recommending that because that, Rob has more experience in that, and others in the field may have more experience in that. But I've never had a haunting in my home in the in my entire life, I've been working with EVP and ITC.
Yeah. Everybody's different, but just seeing what I have experienced and
Right.
what I've had to go and clean up
Of
after
course.
people doing things in their house. Um, that's why I say I don't recommend people doing it.
Always, you're right, Rob. And I always divert to safety first. I mean, safety in anything in life, so listen to Rob, please.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying I know it all, because I don't. I don't even know if there is such thing as spirit. I mean, honestly, I mean, we don't know. We don't know what we're communicating with. We don't know what energies are there. I don't know. Is it just energy, that residual energy that was left behind? Is it a psychic scar because something tragic happened there? I don't know. A lot of things that I have experienced kind of leads to that. Um, there was, like I said, when I was working the jail, because I had the privilege of facilitating an abandoned jail. So I spent maybe 180 to 200 hours in that location over a period of time. So everything that I was capturing via a ghost box, via EVPs, via the Echo Vox, and this is where I got validity using the Echo Vox. I was getting names that weren't documented. So I was writing things down and recording it, the sessions. I'd listen back and start doing research on the names that I was picking up. And everything was like right on. And so, but the funny thing is everything that I documented had a tragic story.
Interesting.
Where there was a fight that broke out. A guy was killed. The police witnessed it, didn't do anything. They just picked him up, took him to the hospital where he later died. In this, the the jail that I'm talking about, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Zoot Suit riots. That took place at that jail. That's where that story came from.
Okay.
That was a riot there was 25 policemen that attacked some Hispanic inmates, and that was also called Bloody Christmas because it happened on Christmas morning, and there was 30 officers that were indicted for that. And LA Confidential, that movie LA Confidential, was also took place in that jail. That's where the story was. So a lot of the things I have documented, and historians were like, how in the hell did you find these stories? They're not even documented, and we didn't even know about it, but I had actual records showing the stories. Like there was a two neighbors, there were females that were feuding, and they went to the judge. So they kept on going to court. They kept on one of them get arrested. They finally kept on going to court. The judge finally got tired of it and said, look, you guys are both being locked up together. I'm going to lock you guys up until you work out your differences. So they were in jail for 7 days together before they were released. Yeah, so that's another story that I had, and people like, where did you find this? And the person that I was sharing the stories with, and he was giving me some stories. He was like, man, I had no idea. How are you finding these? I told him it's via Ghost Box. It's telling me all these things, and he's like, what the hell are you talking about? So I kind of showed him, and he didn't believe it. But I said, look, how else do you think I'm documenting this? How do you think I'm finding it? And it led me to where to find the documents. So
right. And to kind of footnote your story, Katie mentioned in the comments, it's some form of intelligence, whether present or imprinted. And that's exactly essentially what you were experiencing in that situation, whether present, sentient at the time, or somehow imprinted stone tape theory. There's other theories that discuss that. You were receiving that information, and that's what's so fascinating. Is
No, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Like, when you talk about hauntings and things like that, is it actual a physical presence, or is it just that, like we're saying, that imprint that's left behind? We don't know. It's a psychic scar, is basically what it is.
And many ITC pioneers and researchers over time, since Frederick Jurgensen, Dr. Konstantin Radovan, and those names will come up, a lot. We have documented proof of possibly all of those things happening. Whether it's intelligence, it's stone tape theory. There could be so many things going on. Even our own brains, we don't even understand yet, and maybe how they might be emitting at a frequency these thoughts on a subconscious level. We just don't know. It could be all of these things. It could be none of these things.
Well, okay, so now you're hitting on I know that we're rambling.
Did I derail thing? I might have derailed.
No,
here.
but this is what the show's about. Like, with us having a discussion about ITC, we're just trying to fill you guys in, on what we've experienced. And like I said, we just go kind of like on the low tangent, whatever. But if you guys have any questions, throw them out there. But like, what was I going to say? Now I kind of lost my train of thought.
I apologize if I derailed.
No, not at all. It's fine.
We were talking about how you were at the location, you were picking up, whether through imprinted or present intelligence.
Oh, that's right.
These stories that no one had documents of, and that turned out to be correct.
So it's like, yes, I have abilities. Is my abilities able to help with spirit communication via telekinesis? It's possible. It makes sense. Because I never really took it serious. And maybe subconsciously I wanted a breakthrough. And that's why I kept on messing around with the boxes. Maybe I wanted a breakthrough. So maybe it was just, like I was saying, it was psychokinesis that, I was trying to concentrate on things. All of a sudden my thoughts were coming through the box. Then I'm like, holy crap, I didn't even say it out loud. And that's something that I do from time to time. I'm just sitting here letting the box go, but I'm thinking about questions, and all of a sudden I'm getting my answers. Josh and I were sitting here one day. I had two of my boxes out. We were sitting outside. I had them up on a bench, and Josh and I are having a conversation, kind of like how we are now. I had the two boxes on. He would think something or start to say something, the box would answer. I would start saying something to him, the box would answer. And then the boxes started communicating with each other.
One box would start half the sentence. The second box would finish the sentence. The first box didn't finish.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was almost like a DJ using the radios as turntables. And I don't know. I don't know of a better analogy. Rob, next time we should film that. We should have the cameras rolling. Although those things happen when the cameras aren't rolling. Isn't that the
that's always an ironic part.
Yeah, I think the joke's on us. I think when that happens.
Yeah. So, yeah, and like I said, I mean, so Josh discovered on one of my boxes that there's a mode where it will pick up responses only. And I was like, what are you talking about? So we started playing around. I tried it and I was like, holy crap. So I said, okay, so I'm going to get two radios. And I think this is where it kind of picked up on. So I pulled out, and I think this is how it started. I pulled out two radios, turned them on at the same exact time. So we're thinking, okay, if it's picking up radio stations, they should be hitting every time they hit that certain frequency. They're both going to say the same thing. That wasn't happening. One would say something. It would take the other one, several minutes before anything would come through. And then, right? Is that what?
Well, the time varied. I mean, again, something I think would be easier to show on film, but the non-locale, non-time determinate uh, actions of those boxes working together was incredible.
Yeah, it was crazy because one would say something and then the other one would like answer, and then it would be a couple of minutes later, then this one would just start talking, and then all of a sudden it would like answer a question that we just said, and then I would ask Josh a question, the other box would answer, and then the other one would like finish the response. It was weird. It was really strange. I just can't explain it on what was happening.
And a lesson to us, I think, obviously for this show, we can film those things going forward and then maybe show a clip. And I think it might portray the example better. And it's possible people listening or watching this on review, if that happens, may have had that happen to them, maybe experimenting with other people as well.
Yeah. So we talked about, somebody else messaged me, two people messaged me um this past week that they were watching my show on Saturday, and they had a box that I built for them turned on while my show was going. The boxes that they were running were answering what was happening. It was weird. So something was being asked. I was asking a question for
Okay.
the box here, right? When I was doing the session. When I do like my live shows, the audience will type in questions and then I will ask the question and we'll see if we hear a response that's being fed out to the internet. So that person was two people were telling me that their boxes were answering the questions when I was throwing them out there, and they were spot on, relevant to what was being said. And the people's questions that were being asked, they were getting the responses from those questions.
So you were verbally saying these questions out loud, and the person in their own residence was
We're hearing
hearing
the
you.
responses,
So it was coming through speakers, a TV, computer, whatever the case was.
right?
And the box that was on in that person's residence heard your question, just to keep this example simple, and then responded out of the box to your question.
Correct.
That's what you call non-locale, and that's what you call distance and time are irrelevant. And what we're finding in ITC communication is time and distance is highly irrelevant. It actually reminds me a little bit of the Ghost Box Collective experiment Tim Woolworth did a few years back. Slightly different, but in the same vein that there just doesn't seem to be any limitations of how this communication can be facilitated and be executed.
No, it's crazy, and this is where I'm talking about like how far I have come with the ITC field. I would literally laugh at people messing around with the SB7, messing around with any type of ghost box, even a boutique box. I would just sit there and laugh. I'm like, oh my god, this is crap.
It, Katie just brought up. She said it reminds me of our live ghost box experiment, which definitely they've conducted live ghost box experiments, and I also know with their live streams, several people, when they had the opportunity, were working with those live streams and asking questions and finding out if someone around the world would get a response. So yeah, thank you, Katie, for filling us in on things I may be forgetting to say. Very good point.
Yeah. So let me ask Spirit what I used to say about analog radio, sweeping radios. What did I used to say?
Analog sweeping radios suck.
Ooh, right to the heart. That sounds familiar. It sounds like it came out of a highly reverberated and highly saturated box, but I won't say which one.
Yeah. So, Spirit, what do you think about some of the boxes out there that people use to say that it's good spirit, or it's true spirit communication?
I prefer the Portal. That's the best box for ITC communication.
So you did mention the device. Okay, I didn't know if that was going to happen, but it showed up. We'll have to. I think as the show goes on, people will understand that. We keep that clip, and as the show goes on, and people learn about what we're talking about, that maybe become funnier. But for some of the old school ITC people, I think that will be somewhat relevant. Yeah, Katie says, thank you guys for verifying that locality. It's a massive issue. Yeah, I completely, I'd have to talk with you more about your experiments, Katie. But I can concur with your research. I don't know. We could derail the whole podcast again on this topic.
But Katie, the portal spirit just said it's the best. That's the best ITC box out there. It's the best ghost box. What are you talking about? It's got to be 100% real communication if spirit just said it.
Well, and I think, like I said, we could derail the show talking about certain boxes, what they do, what they don't do. But by and large, our show will help get you and directed to the box builders again that are truly pushing ITC research forward in terms of communication experiments, and there's a whole world to learn about. And I'm so glad now, Rob, that the show is kind of rolling, that we're going to be able to talk about this, and there's going to be a lot to discuss as time goes on.
Right. No. Hey, there's everybody that knows me. I'm a huge smartass, and
Steve Holte commented, said it's not a ghost box, it's an amplifier, and that's
we all know
correct.
that.
It's 100%.
We all know that.
Right. Well, and something we can go into later is something that's so heavily saturated with reverb reduces the fidelity and clarity of the audio. Let me say that again. Heavily saturated reverb diminishes the quality of an audio signal. That's not up for debate. The physics of our dimension dictate that to be the case. Apps like EchoVox that let you dial in the reverb specifically and let you custom tailor the echo and reverb, that's great, because we've proven that reverb and echo do serve a purpose. But something that's so highly saturated with reverb that diminishes the audio quality creates ambiguity about what's really being said phonetically. And by not being able to record the raw audio, when something is heavily saturated with reverb, not having a bypass to record the raw audio to A/B to really hear what it sounds like with the reverb and without, is a serious problem for ITC research. And that's where the line's in the sand. That's entertainment. That's just not ITC research.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, Katie, and that's the thing. Like when I used to experiment with the EchoVox, yeah, I used to cut off the mic all the time.
Right.
And when you're in a location that there was a lot of Hispanics in that location, and violent person, so I did a EchoVox session in solitary confinement. Everything in there we were getting was cuss words in Spanish and a lot of Spanish speaking. And as you know, just it's using audio banks with phonetic sounds, and for everything to come out in Spanish, it's mind blowing. And for the woman that was talking at that time, it was calling her a whore in Spanish. Yeah, it was calling her like every cuss name that a female would be called at that point in time, because it was pissed off that she was in there, and she was a psychic. It was crazy.
That's fascinating. Yeah, Katie's saying just keep the mic off when using EchoVox. That's a good point. Yeah, I've had success keeping the mic off and turning reverb and echo off completely. The app works fantastic. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, like I told Josh in the past, I've ripped the audio banks out of it and I fed them all into Winamp, and I did just did the shuffle, and played it back just using the computer, just to see what would happen. And I was like, holy crap, this it was even working that way. So it was kind of crazy.
EchoVox is legit. The few times I've talked to Danny, we have a lot in common. He's an audio engineer. He's a drummer just like me. We're both musicians. So I understood exactly what he was talking about. His app is legit. There's nothing faked in that app. He put a lot of time and energy into that. Yeah, he did a very good job with EchoVox. Very good job.
And me personally, I still like one of the original versions. Any of the updated, it didn't work as well.
The 4-channel, I think the original was 4-channel and the updated one was 6. Yeah, actually the simpler was better. The 4-channel is close to my heart. It's very
I think I was using I think it was 1.2. Once it got up to 3, it wasn't as good. So I kept on going back to, because he came out with even the classic, but this was before that. Right. I just had the old APK file saved, and I would delete everything else and then upload that APK file. I might even still have it somewhere, but anyway, that's the one that I preferred.
Yeah, I think we can give our stamp and approval on EchoVox, no questions.
Yeah,
time and time definitely. Again. It's proven itself as an effective tool. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, Katie and Steve, I'm glad that you guys joined us.
It's an honor. It's absolutely an honor.
No, exactly. Like I said, we're not going to call. So if we talk about anybody or anything, the only thing that we're going to do is give out props to people that, that do have, that I do have respect for, people that I do, totally respect in the field. There's a lot of people that I don't. I've gotten into it with a lot of people in the field, not only in ITC, but in the paranormal field in general. Just because I'm very passionate about everything that I do. I know Steve is the same way. Steve Holte is the same way. So when we're very passionate about something, we protect it. We will protect it, whether we start arguing online with somebody, whether we call somebody out, what have you. And I've gone through so many people in this field. I've lost so many friends, but the true researchers out there, that there's a lot of respect that we have for each other. And there's still people that do call me up to talk to me about different locations, things like that. So, I'm always an open book to anybody.
Yeah, that's true.
All these damn pop-ups. So anyway, no, I'm not going to talk about anybody, Katie. I'm not bringing up anybody's names.
I think other than the drop you just had there as a quick haha. I mean, really, I think the show, we want to celebrate the people that are doing the good work. Eventually, Rob and I will get to everyone doing the good work. I think it's a situation, if we don't eventually bring you up, that's kind of the, you're in the entertainment category type thing. And it could take several shows to cover everyone's work. I mean, there's so many people contributing good work and doing research, and there's people we don't even know about. There's people that probably have far more experience and intelligence than I do that are in an audio lab stuck somewhere in the middle of a town somewhere that's doing great work that we just don't know about. I mean, there's always that. So
yeah, no, I mean, like I was talking to Josh last night. Yeah, we are focusing. We are focusing on the good. That's why we're, and it's so funny because now the person that was like the biggest fraud in the field has competition, and here's the funny. Here's the ironic
situation.
Here's the ironic part. He is calling out the people that are his biggest competition now. It's so funny to watch. He's showing how they're doing it. So he's basically showing, and then he was like, yeah, whenever I do a celebrity, whenever I'm contacting a celebrity, I have them on an interview on one of the TVs in the same room, and so I'm watching the interview, and that's how I'm channeling that person, and I'm like, are you really saying that right now? So he's kind of, that's what he's saying. But then he's like, well, these people now, I'm showing what I'm doing, but these people now, they're using apps, they're using, voice changers of Elvis Presley's voice or Robin Williams' voice or who else was it? A rapper that he contacted also. Anyway, he was like, yeah, they're using a voice changer app, and that's how they're doing it. They're asking a question, and then they're getting the voiceover, and then they're feeding it back through their amp. So I'm like, that's exactly what you're doing. What the hell are you talking about? So he's calling out these people now, and it's just funny.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's an unavoidable problem because let's face it, we're humans and the ego gets involved. And unfortunately, I think with anything in life, people try and find an opportunity to make money. And this is a situation where not only can you create ambiguity with heavily saturated reverb, so you really don't know what's being said, but through tricks of editing and again, using celebrity voices, because not only are they the most prevalent to find and copy on the internet, but that's what the instant gratification culture wants. They want to see the box work. They want immediate call and response like a walkie-talkie, and they want to hear that voice, and then that's the party for them. It couldn't be farther from the truth on how real ITC communication is conducted, is received. It's just it has nothing to do with what I'm doing or any of my colleagues I know are doing or you're doing, Robert, like the Holtes or anyone else. It's
so on that note, I'm going to show a clip on what has happened during one of my shows, and this is using reverse speech. And this actually happened. Well, I have a few clips, but I mean, the one that I have, because I have a clip of where I have, well, the other camera is off, but I have a black mirror on my little, I'll just call it an altar. So it has my ghost box. Well, one of my ghost boxes that I use. It has a black mirror, has candles, but that black mirror was pushed over. And when I asked, what happened to the mirror? Spirit came back and it said it fell. And so I have that on clip. Yeah, that was kind of a trip. And that was, everybody saw it live when it happened. And everybody said, oh my God, it said it fell. So I got Spirit responding with that. Then this past weekend, somebody asked if one of her loved ones was here. I forget her name. Can you set the REM pod off? And so I asked that question, and then all of a sudden, the REM pod started going off on cue. So I have that on clip if you guys want to see it, and you'll hear what a real spirit. And then somebody else asked if I asked if another person was here, and you'll hear what it says. But let me go ahead and play that clip really quick. I'm gonna take you off camera real quick, Josh.
Yeah.
Who just set off the REM pod? Was that Marie? If so, can you set it off again? Is Aunt Pat here? Yeah. Anyway, that was just a quick clip.
That audio came through nice and clear in my headphones.
Did it?
Yeah, it's very good.
Cool.
The question Dawn is asking, is that the black thing that's hanging behind you?
What? No, the black mirror. It's this. So you can see the reflection, but it is solid black. Can't even see anything, just a reflection.
Hi, Alberta. Thank you for joining us.
But anyway, no, that the black mirror, it's used for scrying. So scrying is another type of communication that you can do. You just basically try to concentrate and just kind of focus into a mirror with a candle lit up, illuminating the front of the mirror, and just so we can see kind of like your reflection, and then you will just concentrate on it and you'll be surprised on what comes through. You'll see faces. Spirit will show themselves to you. It's pretty cool. It's almost hard to get it on camera. But we have seen a couple of things form in the mirror. One time there was like a little rainbow circle forming in the mirror. That was weird. And then sometimes there's like a little orb that kind of floats around on there. What else? There was a shadow. It looked like a person's face in the mirror that everybody saw. So it's just pretty interesting. What's up, Teresa?
Dawn is saying she sees people on the wall behind you during the live.
Okay,
session.
so all right, so behind me, so basically it's just like a black curtain. I was gonna do green screen, so I had a huge green screen here. But then at last minute before I actually went live for the first time, I went ahead and changed it just to black. I just think it looks good on camera. Green screen, it's cool, but I think after a while you guys will get bored of it.
Not
I
unless
know
you
it's
have, like,
just
can you put like a picture of Maui back there with some palm trees and make it, like Hawaii ghost spot? I don't know.
yeah, but I think after a while, if you're on camera for 4 hours with that, and then me moving around, it's kind of like I'm glowing a little bit.
Right.
So it just wouldn't. It would be cool for a little while, but for a long show, yeah, my shows on Saturdays go for like 4 hours, 4.5 hours. It's crazy.
Yeah, I start hours at that time at night. That's when all of us audio engineers work. And I'm going on break, and you still have the ghost box going. Like, man, that would be. I would have ear fatigue by that point. But you're a trooper. I commend you on what you're doing. I really do.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I have a good time.
Absolutely. And you have a great group. That's what makes it so great. You have the people that are joining are so interactive and just as interested and passionate about this as you are. So it really makes for an eclectic group.
Well, that's what Dawn, and you're not the first person that said that. I know that you've said it. Raina said it. There's quite a few people that have seen people that said that are standing behind me at times during my sessions. And a couple of times, I have reacted to it. So no, I totally understand that. I don't know how you turn off the closed caption on Facebook.
I'll
honestly.
help, and I'll stop talking. That'll help.
I just talk too much.
Great point, Raina. Yeah, excellent point.
Well, thank you. No, I enjoy doing my show. It's a lot of fun. Yes, I'm a smartass, but I'd like to have fun. I like to make everybody laugh. I like to just keep. I try. I know. I try to. I just try to be entertaining as much as I can. Yes, I know sometimes I go on a tangent about the paranormal or about a certain location, things like that. So whatever.
Sharon is saying, I don't know if this was during the live sessions, but she said, I asked one night if my uncle wanted to contact someone and all of his kids' names came up. That's impressive. It's common though, that does happen, but very impressive.
That is crazy. And that's what I'm saying is, I know sometimes I talk a little too close to the mic. I try to stay a little bit away, but sometimes I get excited.
Same here. Yeah, we both work with voiceovers and recording voiceovers, and yet we have a huge problem with regulating our volume in the microphone when we're actually the ones talking. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it is funny because when you're recording, actually when you're doing voiceovers, I try to stay about this far away,
Right.
and stay in that position and don't move,
right
as you're speaking.
Exactly. Yeah, there's really, it's a point where you get that sound like, okay, don't move, just relax and stay calm, but don't move. Don't move, but be relaxed and calm.
Exactly. Stay relaxed but don't move.
Don't move.
But yeah, with this, I'm like all over the place.
Right.
And then sometimes I'm like, whoa, my voice is a little too hot. But no, like what we were saying is, damn, what were we saying now? Oh, just with the whole show. Yeah, everything is about you guys. Like I say on my other show, whatever you guys want to see, whatever you guys want to hear, let us know. If you guys want to hear the background and get technical and hear really technical, boring talk,
I'm your
that's
guy.
fine.
Yeah, we'll handle that.
I'll
put
fine.
You to sleep.
we can do that. Sometimes, like I said, I go off on tangents too, talking about my personal experiences with the paranormal. Like if it's me, that's what I want to hear from you guys. You guys share some experiences that you guys have had, and if you guys want, we can bring somebody else on and talk. I'm always open for other people joining in. Maybe the first hour we could bring guests on,
right.
Or even the last hour. It doesn't matter. If we want to stay on a little bit longer, we can do that. Like I said, my session on Sundays is only scheduled for an hour. My ass, it goes for 4.5 hours.
You set that for an hour, or
well, it's only that was the whole premise. I'm going to be on
okay.
I'm going to be on my show for an hour. So okay, I'll go to bed at 1:45. Big deal. Oh no, I'm going to bed at 4:45.
Yeah, it's very interesting when you're focusing and putting your energy into these sessions. The few times, other than research, where I've worked with family members who have wanted to find out what I'm doing and researching, and we'll sit down and someone has 10 or 15 minutes and 2 hours go by, but it feels like 10 minutes, and you kind of you go into this zone and come out, and I like to joke to myself, it's a small form of time travel, because you really are kind of lost in the moment, and time just, at least for me, it flies when you're concentrating so hard and listening so hard. So 4 hours, I can see how 4 hours could go by in a blink of an eye.
Oh my God, it does.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. The salt lamp? No, it's a salt lamp. So I have a salt lamp. Next to that, I have a crystal ball. It's pretty heavy.
That's cool.
The bad thing is I've dropped it a couple of times, and I'm like, oh crap! Hope it doesn't crack.
Drop it down a shelf or two, maybe. Huh? Well, of course, it looks better up there. So yeah, that's.
No, I used to have it next to my ghost box, but I had to kind of rearrange things a little bit.
Well, then, so on the Saturday shows, you're doing 4-hour sessions. I'm wondering then, if our show, as we progress forward, depending on how long these shows go, and we bring some audience members on, and hopefully we can bring some other experts in the field on, it would be nice maybe to even play different ghost boxes. Because between you and me and everyone we know, we could probably feature a ghost box from a box builder, talk about it a little bit, just, give it its praises, even do a review, an honest review on it. And, that might be interesting for the show, and maybe it'll give the viewers an opportunity to see what people are working on out there. Just fascinating boxes, some really interesting stuff.
No, exactly. I'm waiting for actually ordered a ghost box from somebody else, and I'm waiting for that to come in. So
I'm actually really excited to hear that.
I haven't heard from them, so
Well,
starting to get a little
you
PO'd, but whatever.
not delays. It's just everything is delayed these days. Everything. So it'll be fine. Oh, this might be your wheelhouse here, Rob.
I've seen it happen. I've experienced somebody having it and they could not move, and I was trying to move them. This was when I first got into the paranormal. That was like the first year I was even into the paranormal. Actually, he and I went to a location, and I think he had an attachment. So, yeah, it was crazy. But honestly, I think it can, because I mean I've witnessed it.
I've heard about it. I'm not myself a paranormal investigator per se, but I've heard other people talk about it. I don't know if that's when they've slept on location or if they've got home. But I have heard people talking about it. Oh, I'm Eric Ghost says it's happened to me many times.
Yeah, I'm Eric Ghost. You even got you got raped before.
What'd you say?
I'm not going to repeat it.
Okay. You said what I thought you said.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't. Okay. It's an interesting story. Maybe you'll tell me off camera. I don't help me with that one. I'm a little lost.
No, it's somebody that I know. So he was attacked a few times. Let's just put it that way.
I'm not trying to mock your situation. I didn't expect that topic to come up. So that was my nervous.
No,
laugh.
that's fine.
That was my nervous. Like, can you say that? Oh boy.
Yeah, he was attacked by succubus. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, okay. I've heard incubus and succubus. Okay.
Yeah, he wishes it was a succubus or an incubus. I should say.
So it was okay. So it was the male as.
So an incubus is a male, a succubus is a female.
Okay.
Eric wanted the incubus, but he got a succubus instead.
Wow, this is something I'm gonna have to hear about it. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny.
I have not had that happen to me.
He's probably sitting there laughing.
Yeah, just to say, as an ITC researcher, I haven't experienced that. I can definitely tell you I haven't experienced that.
Yeah, I've never experienced
100%.
it. I've never experienced it, but I witnessed that one.
Wow, you witnessed that?
Kind of. Yeah, kind of.
So this story goes deeper than this.
It's deeper.
Okay.
It is deeper.
Again, I'm not mocking the situation. We were talking about the show review. I didn't expect this to come up. Oh my God! Just wait, you will. Thank you, Katie. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. Maybe he'll come on. Maybe he should just explain it. No, we can't do it yet. It's got to wait. In a future show, you can come on and explain what happened.
That's fascinating testimony. Again, I haven't experienced that. I don't know anyone that personally has, but that's fascinating testimony. I love that.
And it all has to do with what's on this little amulet. That all has to do with it. That's all I can say.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, but anyway.
I didn't mean to mock anyone's personal experience. It was the topic and how it came up. That was my shock, my nervous laugh. Again, not mocking anyone's personal experience. So just want to be very clear about that.
No, it's not related to sleep paralysis. That what we're talking about is a whole other topic. If anybody has any experiences with an incubus or succubus, please let me know. And we can talk about that later. We can have another segment on another show.
Okay, Eric says we all joke about it now. I didn't want to be insensitive just because I haven't experienced something, but I was laughing at Rob and how it was brought up. I promise I don't think that's funny, and I'm actually interested to hear the testimony. That's fascinating. Everyone's laughing. I guess we're okay.
Oh my gosh. I'm just having like way too much fun. Hold on one second. I'm going to do something. So Josh, go ahead and tell us, here, you talk, answer that. Oh, never mind. That's for me. Yes.
We could both. Yeah.
No,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I mean, is that okay though?
No, absolutely. Take it and I'll.
No. Can you take it or no?
Oh no, I can't. I was just going to say what, in the past, ITC pioneers and practitioners have recorded, the words that have been documented. Why don't you take it though? Because mine is much more boring. You have a better way of telling this.
So yes, there was a case that we worked on. Actually, I've taken a couple of cases, that were 2 cases in particular, 3 cases. No, now I got to go back. 3 cases in particular were non-human. And when that does happen, it is so rare. Things like that normally don't happen. Let's just put it that way. And it's funny when you watch certain ghost shows, things like that. They bring up things that talk about, demons and things like that, something being demonic. A demonic case is so rare. It just never happens. It's like not even a percent. It's like 0.1% of cases, or a demonic case would be, that those were the odds of a demonic case ever happening, or something being non-human, I should say. I hope that answered your question.
And to kind of also add to that, I don't know if non-human could mean evidence of, for lack of better words, alien spirit, other civilizations that have come and gone, and they have died and moved on to the other side. There have been the ITC pioneers and researchers in this field, who are too many to name at this point, have documented, possibly reaching out to aliens or the spirit of a deceased alien from another world. There's been communication documented from pretty much anything you can imagine, I would say, at this point. I obviously can't, have any point of validity to that. I've researched and received a lot of that communication as well, but right now we don't know where it's coming from, but we have received what I believe would be communication from non-human spirits. Obviously we can't prove that.
What do you mean angels, not just demons? Well, I mean, you just have to think, I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, it kind of gets a little religious. Everything, talking about demons, talking about angels, things like that, it all becomes like very religious. because with all the theories and how demons, came about and what happened, just with all the stories, it's just now we're getting into religious topics, and that was something that that I had to, um, when I was explaining a certain case that I did with a producer, it became very controversial, and it became very, it started taking the religious aspect of the case. Whenever demons, that's why TV shows do not like to talk about demons, because then it starts becoming religious. You're walking the religious line. So yeah, anytime somebody says demonic, they don't like hearing that on TV, because you're walking a line of, now it's becoming religious.
Right. And I think that's the connotation. At least I can speak in my research. No dominant religion has ever been discussed. I don't hear a lot of Catholic or Christian ideology being communicated. I was raised Presbyterian by a Southern Baptist mother and a Jewish father. And I went to Catholic high school and took world religion classes. And as much as I've learned about religion, there doesn't seem to be a dominating force, or I haven't seen anything that's, dominated by Catholicism or angels and demons, so to speak. The relationship that I know the scientific community, or those that are involved in the scientific community, if we can relate to angels or demons, I would say that the spirit texts are more or less an analogy for an angel, and the voices that come through that call you names and sound demonic are just people with bad attitudes that crossed over and continued that bad attitude. So I feel like religion is an analogy for maybe what we're discovering scientifically. I don't know.
Joshua, we're coming for you.
I have a feeling my research is going to have some different voices from here on out. You might be layering some audio there for me. That sounded demonic. I have to go hide.
The devil's coming after you, Josh.
Again, something we didn't talk about for this show. We're coming for you. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, that's just, again, my experience. I can't say it's definitely this way or one or the other, but I haven't had anything that's been dominated by religious wording or verbiage or communication.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I mean, I had to do that. That was just something,
Alberta,
just to lighten up the conversation a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Just because, I mean, it trust me, I've experienced that. There's a couple of people on here that have, I'm not going to mention names, but we can talk about that at a different time.
Right.
Just right now, it's not a good time.
Right.
So, and with me, like I said, I've dealt a lot with Satanism, all types of different Christian religions. So, so I mean, I've been around both, which is pretty interesting. I've met some great people and learned a lot. So, and I think that that's why I'm very well versed and very well protected on different realms. Yes, I've been attacked a couple of times. But I think that helped me even grow stronger. That's just where I'm at in my spiritual realm. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm a smartass. I like to joke around, and I do make light of certain situations because I don't like to dwell on the negative. Let's just put it that way. If anything starts to take a turn and go a little dark, I will pull out of that really quick and kind of change the subject and try to lighten things up a little bit. So with what we're talking about with layering audio and voiceovers, things like that, I did record these little clips that I was playing today or played tonight today. So that's just something that I did. Just took me like 20 seconds
I want a
to
copy of the
create.
last one. I want a copy of that.
Yeah, it took me like a whole 20 seconds to put them up. So anyway, but yes, I mean, like we said, you know, for people that are faking evidence, faking sessions, things like that, it's there's no reason to. There's really absolutely no reason to. You know, with me playing that little clip for you guys earlier, that was something that happened within, you know, a minute during one of my sessions on Saturday night. This happens quite often. People that are on my show, there's quite a few people that do watch the show. Alberta's on here, Heidi's on here, Carl, Raina, Teresa, Dawn. You know, all you guys watch my show on Saturdays, and you guys have had experiences. And also, and there was somebody else that was just talking about, somebody asked about somebody that passed. Was it Stephanie? I don't remember. Oh no, it was Sharon. Sharon asked a question, and she had um, five people come through, and she said that her family got really emotional over it. So you know, and things like that. Who would have ever known that, you know, tuning into a live session, ghost box session, and for that somebody to have that type of communication with or got that type of answer, you know, during a box session, you know, and how can I fake that? Or, you know, how can you say that that wasn't real when she had that type of experience? I can't predict what's going to come through.
Right.
And this is all reverse audio. This is like the big part of it. Everything, all the audio that I'm using now, it's all reverse.
Right.
So there's no English words coming out. There shouldn't be anyway, at all.
It removes a lot of the variables for ambiguity and for skeptics, and skeptical questions are always good. That's what pushes our field forward, and that's how we keep pursuing the research honestly and with transparency. But yeah, so when you added the reverse circuit again that we talked about, Steve and Katie working on, and you're implementing, it's fascinating. I mean, it's well, I mean, look at the success of the show, and you know, even when I'm able to tune in a little bit, I immediately I'm hearing, just first of all, the way you're broadcasting it is completely, it's clear, it's audible, and then the circuit itself is just, it's fantastic. I'm very impressed with the results.
No, it's I I'm just blown. I'm still blown away by it. I can't honestly can't believe what I'm hearing in the responses that we're getting. And it is so easy to just sit here and now listen without having to, you know, when you're listening to forward speech over a ghost box, there's so many things coming through. You got to think everything that is sweeping through, it's all forward speech.
Correct.
So trying to decipher what's an answer, what's radio, what's spirit communication, what can we explain, what can't we explain. It's that much harder to decipher. But now doing it this way, it's so easy to decipher. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, and it reduces some of the, you know, in a ghost box session. Alberta, thank you. We'll get connected, and I'll definitely want to see your videos. To highlight what you were saying though, with the reverse speech, it reduces some of the ambiguity. During a radio session, you'll have radio bleed, you'll have audio pareidolia, and you'll have intelligent communication. All three can exist at the same time. A lot of people believe, well, if there's radio bleed, you know, that's it. That debunks the whole thing. Well, if that's the case, then let's debunk EVP, because you're not in a perfectly controlled environment. So if we're going to debunk, you know, radio-based ITC, basically everything goes out the window because there's too many variables to negotiate. But isn't that what we're learning about ITC is we need the noise, we need the energy. So it's almost a paradox working in a controlled environment. If you're not producing a lot of that energy, does that communication come through? And we circle back to the reverse speech, is you're taking a lot of those variables out. So when you do hear forward speech, really what is there to question still at that point? So you're minimizing variables and you're able to ask better questions.
No, absolutely right. It's crazy. I mean, I'm just fascinated, and I'm glad that I decided to even try that.
I am too. Absolutely. It works very well with your circuit, to say the least.
And just because now, so doing my show, there was a lot of skeptics that were coming in and saying, oh, what you're doing is so wrong, because they were seeing a lot of the questions that were coming through. And they were like, that's wrong. How can you even allow people to ask questions for their loved ones to come through? That's wrong. And for the audio that I was using at that time, yes, it was forward speech. And he had every right to say that. Because I'm like, yeah, I can't tell people, well, yeah, you're hearing radio chatter, because, it's up to the listener to interpret what they want, what they're hearing. Right. So with that said, I said, you know what? I got to do something different. I got to change it up. Either I'm going to have to change it up or I'm going to have to end the show. Right. Just because I didn't want that responsibility on somebody coming in and say, because that's how much I care about the people out there. If I didn't care, I'd be like, screw what anybody else thinks. Why am I going to feel guilty? Right. I mean, because I'm the mediator. So, or I'm the host. So I'm the one that's, allowing this to go out. Right. So I have a conscience. So it was bothering me. Yes, it was some troll saying this, but it got to me. And that's just tells you the type of person I am. Because I do care about people. Mm-hmm. I do care about what people think about me even. Yes, I might not have, totally agree with other people. I have disagreements, and I might not, if they don't like what I have to say, then so be it. I might be a little butthurt for a little while, but you know what? I got to get over it. So, anyway, so then that's when I said, you know what? I'm going to do something totally different, something that can't be explained, somebody can't say, well, it's just radio chatter. Well, then you tell me, how is radio chatter coming through in reverse? And we're getting English, getting words that we can understand. How is that possible? You explain it to me.
It's a very good question. And that's why it eliminates, although we know the intelligent communication happens during forward speech, it definitely eliminates many of the variables. Was the commenter on the show arguing that from an ethical and moral standpoint? You shouldn't be contacting, or was it more of, it sounds like as a moral or ethical issue. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, that's the way that I took it. And yes, with him coming at me that way,
right,
it got me thinking. If somebody else comes through, oh, this is bullshit, this is just radio coming through, I understand that. That's totally, you know what, dude, you're just trolling. You should know we're doing a ghost box session. End the session, right? So it would be like me coming to you a few years ago and laughing at you. Bro, what the hell are you doing listening to broken radio? Right. Things like that, right?
Right.
So you would kind of just ignore me.
And that's funny, because I have had some people with a very heavy faith background. Again, I grew up in a religious home. So I understand religion, I understand faith, and I understand being spiritual. I'm very spiritual. But it's funny how most of the world religions say, in some form or another, heaven is all around us. Our loved ones are all around us. They want you to know they're okay. And here we come along with science going, hey, we think we might have something here. What religion has been talking about since the dawn of man, we think we have found that the electromagnetic spectrum is everywhere, and it can be used as a piggyback for communication, whether in this dimension or the next. And I think religion and science have a lot more in common than we realize. One's more speaking with analogy, and the other one is, very much more realistic. But to argue that, I understand and I respect his standpoint, but from where I'm coming from, I'm excited about it. I'm excited that all of these things we've read in religious texts and these philosophies and theories throughout time, we're now on the cusp of saying we might have something. And I say might. Uh, I couldn't imagine this is such an exciting time to be alive.
Right. No, absolutely. It's yeah, with that whole thing with what was said and how it affected me in that way to change my way of thinking and try something totally different. Hey, if it wasn't for that person, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. I wouldn't be have such successful 2 weeks of reverse audio being played, and I wouldn't be, like I said, we wouldn't have gotten the responses that we were getting if it wasn't for that person. So hey, you know what, thank that person, and I'm sorry for blocking you or else I would have been giving you props right now.
But that's interesting too, how an event that you perceived at first to really make you think and that kind of impacted you wound up being one of the most positive changes you made with your technology and what you're producing, what the Holtes have used, the reverse circuit, synchronous events.
No, exactly. And everything happens for a reason, and I'm so glad that it did.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and Alberta, I know that she lives in Pennsylvania, and she talks about her house being haunted. So yeah, it's like one day. I've never been there. I would love to take a look. Come check out your location. With my thing, and here we go again. Gosh, like with me, I'm a big skeptic when it comes down to the paranormal, and I'm going to say it.
It's true.
As it is. I mean, I'm more of a skeptic than a believer. I have to see something to believe it. I have to experience it to believe it. Because there's just so much fraud out there. Even when I first got started, locations were so easy to get into. This was before any of the, like I said, before any of the ghost shows, before anything like that. People were open to talk about the paranormal. People were more than happy to open up their doors and invite you in to check out, things, tell you stories. And the way that I got into the paranormal was at a young age. I started sensing things. So I would even walk by a location and I'd be like, oh my God, there's that feeling. And then I would just like get a feeling about this location. And at that time, I wasn't afraid to go knock on the door. And just talk to them and say, people, I would get some really strange looks, but I would kind of explain to them that I was drawn to their house for some reason and I don't know what it is. And then I would explain a few things and they would look at me like, what the hell? How do you know this? Type of deal. So then they would invite me in, sit down and, offer me a glass of iced tea, whatever. And I'll just sit there and we'd start talking. I'd end up sitting there for a couple of hours, just talking to them, walking around their house and, oh my God. And then they would just invite me back and brought a couple of other people that I would work with and have an investigation. It was kind of cool. And paranormal investigators weren't that, there wasn't very many people out there doing it. So just, certain famous people you would see on TV, whatever. But, there was a couple of people that I knew that were working huge cases. Couple of cases that were actually turned into movies at that time I was investigating. Um, so yeah, it was just, at that time that's how it was. Then now you try to get into a location and they're like, hell no, you're a ghost hunter. If you
Right.
want to, investigate my location, give me a couple of, $600, give me, $800, whatever. And it's
Right.
like, I'm not paying you to go investigate your place.
Right.
Um,
Well, and you wonder too about the insurance reasons that have popped up over the years, because people get hurt at these places and people realize this isn't just as easy as, oh yeah, come on in after hours and investigate. Well, man, that's a legal nightmare. Like, I can't even imagine the
yeah,
problems that could happen for a property owner if someone in the middle of the night is fumbling with equipment, trips, falls, breaks their neck. I mean, there's just so much that can happen. So restrictions have definitely tightened on places. And again, not that I know personally, but from talking to you and others, they've definitely exclaimed that as well.
no, it's crazy. And then, we, like I said,
Wow. Yeah.
I used to investigate a lot of locations, and then, back in 2000, 2004, 2000, yeah, it was about 2004 to 2006. Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters were just coming out, and a few locations that we started going to after that, after the show started getting a little bit more and more popular, locations wanted $1 million
Right.
liability insurance policy that you had to have before they
Right.
would even let you in. And I'm like, what do you got to be kidding me. So I looked into, an insurance policy for that. And it was going to cost, I don't know, it was like $600 a year or something like that.
Right. I was gonna say $200-$300 a quarter. Right.
Yeah. And, anyway, so I was going to do it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing it. If somebody wants me to go investigate their location, I'll go out and investigate their location, but I'm not going to have, insurance policy covering it. I'll just find a waiver. And yeah, I've, investigated quite a few locations that invited us down, and they were just like, here, sign a waiver. But we didn't have to pay for anything. We just investigated the location, and I just do not believe in paying to investigate a location just because I'm old school. And if someone wants me to come investigate, then I'll come over and investigate. But
Right.
yes, I've gone to places and participated in a public investigation, which I'll never do again. But well, I won't say never, but anyway, I'm not gonna spend money to travel somewhere to investigate anymore. I've been there, done that.
It's very, very expensive. And Heidi, yes, ghost hunters or paranormal investigators that are doing this, either for a living or taking it very seriously. There's an underwriter in London, and I'm forgetting the name, but there's an underwriter that specifically writes policies for paranormal investigators and ghost hunters. Uh, so when they go on these properties, anyone gets hurt, something happens, they're covered. It's become a very, very expensive endeavor to embark upon.
Yeah, there's a underwriter actually. I know one here local. Well, in LA. It took me a long time to find one,
Right.
but I did find an underwriter that would go ahead. He looked into it because it took him a lot of research to get into it too, just because of the liability risks.
Right.
So he had to really do some research because they have to cover themselves also. Because if somebody sued, somebody's they got to get their money from somewhere, and it's a high risk type of deal.
Yeah,
So
it
he
is.
found he found a way to do it, and he found a company that would take the policy, and that was the hardest part.
Right. Yeah. It's not an easy sell. And from people I know, like yourself and other people that investigated it, and they realized, they want to get into paranormal investigating, they want to travel, and that's that's a great passion. But at the same time, when you realize the cost that's involved, and then traveling and medical and sleeping and everything that you can imagine when you travel, besides trying to run a full-blown investigation over several nights or weeks, whatever you're doing, it's so very expensive. It really is.
And to me, it's not worth it. I mean, end result is, to me, it's not worth it. But anyway, everybody has their, people that are passionate about it. Yes. I mean,
Right.
I've done it. But the end result is, spending the money to do it. End result. It's not worth it
Yeah, our
in
research,
my eyes.
I think you're right. I think for people like you and I, our talents and skills are best spent almost in the studio or creating, or coming up with new techniques for review and things like that. Now you've done both. I haven't investigated at all to speak of. I've been on one investigation, which isn't investigating. I consider myself with no experience in that regard. But I know where my talents and skills lie, and I can't see myself spending that type of cost when so many other people are doing it. They've had more experience at it, like yourself, Rob, and I leave that to those professionals that know what they're doing with that. And yeah, it's definitely expensive. It's something to consider.
Yeah. No, and it like Rihanna said, I mean, everybody's going to the same location. Yes,
That's true,
everybody
yeah.
does go to the same locations over and over and over. And when you do that, here's my thing about that too. You don't know what else everybody else is bringing into the location. Because the more and more that you investigate, the more and more likely it is that you can get an attachment. Like I was talking about earlier, I investigated a jail. People started seeing a change in me. Come to find out, I was dealing with oppression from an attachment that I did get there that I didn't even know about. So it took me a long time to get over or get through that and get rid of that attachment that I had. So, an oppression is not a good thing. It totally changes you. It does a lot of damage to your life. There's just so much. So, in that regards, that's when, after I had to deal with all of that, that's when I started backing off from investigating and doing more. As an investigator, I was more of a researcher anyway. So I was going to a location to do some of the research and debunk some of the stories that were going on, because there's so many locations that it's legend. That's all it is. There's no hard evidence of what they're actually saying. Um, I'm not the only one that has said this. I've had talked to many people that are authors in this field and people I've been talking to over the last couple of years, and they have told me the same thing. Because a book writer is going to do a lot of backstory, a lot of research, back research.
Right.
And they have gone over and they were like, oh my God, this location, I mean, we started comparing notes, and they were like, I have proof that all of these stories that this location is saying is all urban legend. This place is all urban legend. So everybody has stories but no facts.
Right.
And then you have to think of all of that energies that people are bringing in with them. People that don't know have attachments that could be stemming from, or the evidence that people are getting could be from those attachments that people are bringing in.
Right.
So anyway,
And
my
that's it.
rant is over.
No, but that's so important, because through your experiences and what you and I talked about before, you almost in so many ways recommended I I stay my path or my route, because when you get into what you've done, the things you've experienced, and which I have no experience in, um, you've been through that. I mean, you've been around the world. You've been to these places. So the advice you gave me was kind of like, nope, keep your course, keep your path, because I can tell you what I went through, and the good and the bad. I mean, there's obviously, there's the yin and the yang, as they say. But you gave me that advice a while ago, and you were always the researcher, the paranormal investigator, but you were the researcher. You definitely approached it as a skeptic, scientifically minded, although you are spiritual. So it was a very good balance.
No, I mean, and and that's why I can go into a location and I will do some back research and I'm seeing nothing, right? I mean, yes, I'll look at people's evidence and I'm just like, God, like scratching my head, like, really? So then I'll go into a location just with my not going in there with a skeptic mind and coming out, walking around, doing a total um, walkthrough. And I'm like, oh my God, this place is not haunted, that type of deal. And I will sit there and spend time doing like hardcore investigating. Um, and when I'm investigating, I'm not like other people and sit in a room for an hour, waiting there to try to get EVPs, just because I found that if a place is haunted, um, I just have a technique that works. And I will pick up EVPs and people are like, "Oh my God, where did you catch that?" They'll walk over and try to capture the same thing. But I just think it might be more spiritual, that I have that connection and I open myself up to communicating. And that's what I do for my ghost box sessions. So I open myself up and people um cannot stand when I do that. They're like, "Oh my God, dude, you're opening yourself up. You're gonna get an attachment, things like that." I said, "No, I know how to protect myself. I know, I've done this. This is what I do." And they were like, "I don't know what the hell you do." And then I'll just say, "Take a picture over there," and I'll feel it. And I'll say, "Just take a picture." They'll come up and then they'll capture something. And so we'll try to debunk it. And I'm like, "I don't know what it is, but you got something." I'm just saying that even with video, we've captured apparitions on video, just using that same technique.
You've done that
Um,
with the FLIR as well. You've shown me some stuff you've captured on investigations with the FLIR. I was very, very impressed. Definitely
yeah,
raised
I
my
mean,
eyebrows. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, there's just different techniques that you use, and I just open myself up. And that's what I tell people. Don't carry a bunch of equipment around. Use yourself as a sensor, because we have that natural ability if you know how to open yourself up to it. So, and you'll be amazed on what you can capture.
Yeah, so much about ITC is still unknown, especially about the human body, our soul, the brain, and how that plays a part. And we're finding that plays a tremendously large part in the communication.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like you and me, Rob, we can turn on a radio and instantly see communication and have basically a conversation back and forth. And then you bring someone in who's never done this before and they get nothing. I mean, literally nothing. Same radios, same, maintaining the same variables as we can in a controlled environment. I mean, yeah, it's interesting what the human contributes to this communication, like you said, when you open yourself up on these investigations.
Yeah. I mean, it's just something that, like I said, it works for me. Other people don't, they kind of say, "What the hell's he doing? He's just like walking around." Then I'll come back and I'll just start playing stuff, playing EVPs, different things. And then they're like, "What the hell? How in the hell did you capture all that in, a short period of time?" But it's just something that, that happens. I don't, me personally, if I'm in a location more than a few hours now, I spent too much time there.
Wow. Wow. It's interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know how much time you spent on these locations.
Yeah. Now, after, if I'm there for more than 3 hours, I'm bored. I'm falling asleep. Because if spirits there to communicate, they're going to communicate. If I walk around the whole location and I'm not picking up any type of vibe or any type of feelings, I'm like, all right, I'm done. Um, and I'll leave, and people stay there for the rest of the night. And then I was like, "Oh, so what did you guys capture?" "Nothing." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't stay the whole night."
Right. Right.
um so
Teresa mentioned something. She said she's been blocked from a UK team because you've added truths about some locations. Uh, so I guess some facts, that happens with a lot of groups, and they want to they want to perpetuate a story that keeps their passion and interest alive. And it's not always in the best interest of research, but it's sometimes in their own best interest, because a good story gets people heightened, and that can affect an investigation as well, from what I'm understanding. But yeah, there are a lot of groups out there that if you don't get what they get, or if you're not investigating as dramatically as they are, if you will, yeah, they don't want to talk with you. And that's odd, because from a scientific standpoint, I would want to talk to someone and say, hey, I got a lot. What, you didn't get anything? Well, let's compare notes. Let's figure this out. Let's work together. And that's what I think is missing right now. But I'm glad you brought that up, because that a lot of times honest facts are omitted from the stories of locations.
No, exactly. You know what? I have to take a really quick break. Josh, keep them entertained for a minute. I'll be right back.
Fantastic.
I'm taking me off camera. You're going on live, all by yourself.
And how long are we doing this show tonight? Okay, very good.
I don't know.
Okay, so take your break and we'll keep it going.
Okay.
Dawn says your ghost box is getting antsy, and that's what I'd like to bring to the show as well. And thank you for being so patient and listening to us ramble about a lot of this. But we're getting this podcast going, and we will eventually be bringing a variety of ghost boxes that were from the founding father of the ghost box, Frank Sumption. We have some of those to share with you, and basically kind of follow a timeline through the 2000s to current time. And we'll show you how the boxes evolved, how they developed, and how we eventually we're now at Rob's box, and we'll talk about everyone in between. That will take several shows, obviously, but we'll eventually get to everyone again doing some good work in the field. See, it says, Heidi, Josh, sorry to change the subject, but where are you from, my dear? My bad, probably missed out. Oh, okay. I am a Southern California native, born and raised, particularly the San Fernando Valley. And Rob and I, pretty much through our whole lives, have always been a stone's throw away. We lived about a block apart from each other in Ventura County for a few years, just by chance, synchronicity, whatever you want to call it. I have since moved, but we're still about 20 minutes from each other, and we're able to share that research. But I am a Southern California native. So that's pretty much my backstory. He's going to get a rock star. Yeah, he's probably going to get something to drink for energy. But yeah, we are excited to show you the kind of the history, or to do the best we can, and not to keep it creative and not be so boring, but to kind of show you how the boxes have evolved, how we got into apps, or not how Rob and I, but how the industry or the field got into apps, and how there are more forms of ITC communication, not just radio based, not just audio. In fact, some of the most fascinating ITC research is being done by several groups of people, will point out, but they're using a video, and they're capturing still pictures, and they're capturing several still pictures together. And some of that evidence is as mind-blowing, if not more mind-blowing, than a lot of the audio stuff that I'm even working on. So we're going to cover a wide range of ITC. And as we stated, we need to get more of you on the show to testify to your personal accounts. And so we can kind of have a rolling log of what people are experiencing, and continue to share those experiences. Oh, thank you. No, when Rob and I figured out we had time, thank you, Heidi, for saying that. When we figured out we had time to do this podcast, it was something we wanted to do immediately, and just share our experiences, and obviously create a forum where there's many places to go. There's thousands of places to go on the internet to share this, but Rob and I have an interesting dynamic, because he largely has a tremendous amount of experience in paranormal investigating. I have mine in audio engineering and in more controlled environment type situations. So our histories really, we agree on a lot of things, but our histories and our backgrounds really differ in so many ways. So I'm hoping that will make for an interesting show. And the people we're hoping to bring on, some ITC legends. Wait to hear some of the experiences and stories they have. Sean says, have you guys ever been to Waverly Hills Sanitarium? I have not. I know about it quite a bit. I do believe Rob has been there, and I'll let him speak for himself when he gets back. I do know that is a very heavily investigated location. I have heard reports of certain paranormal investigators stating that, and again, I can't account to this myself, but stating that there are so many psychic scars or imprint and energy in these locations because so many people investigate them. Rob, have you been to Waverly Hills?
I was invited, but I didn't go.
Okay, I knew you were invited. There was something to do with you in Waverly Hills, but I wasn't sure if you actually were able to make that trip.
No, I didn't want to go. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and I started to say that a lot of paranormal investigators have reported that other people are bringing their energy to the location, and it's just become kind of a, forgive the language, a chaotic cesspool of energy. It's almost impossible to investigate anymore for its pure form of the location.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked to a few people, and yeah,
Thank you, Heidi.
and same thing. That's what we're discussing, and that was shortly after I was dealing with what I dealt with, and I talked to somebody else, and she kind of talked me out of it. I was already on the fence about it, so she kind of alliterated what I was thinking. So I'm like, you know what, I'm not going.
Right, I understand. Yeah.
I'm just reading I'm posting up some comments.
I gave a little backstory on my location, how we live geographically close to each other, and our plans for the show. I just kind of reiterated some things we're trying to get going for the, it's our second podcast, so I kind of caught everyone up. I did the
Well-
nervous, like, welcome, this is our show, and this is what we're gonna have planned for you, so. Yeah.
No, it's totally fine. I know that some people with what we're talking about right now are going to get pissed off, but it is what it is.
What particularly would they get upset about?
Just with what we're saying about locations.
I personally haven't experienced. I'm relying on what other people have told me. I haven't really been anywhere.
Okay, but so getting into the paranormal, people that have been in the paranormal for, let's say, since 2000, those same people, a lot of people have bailed out of the paranormal. You always get new waves of people coming into the field.
Right.
So somebody might be in the field for, let's say, I'm going to use 5 years. So somebody will be in the field for 5 years, then you'll see like new groups coming in, popping up. So, God, there was less than, I remember when there was probably maybe 50 groups nationwide throughout the US, period.
I remember that too.
And then it went from like, 50 to 5,000. It seemed like almost overnight. And then it went back down, then it went back up, then it went back down. And then, because there was people that this was even before the internet. I think, damn, now I'm really aging myself.
Careful there.
I know. We all so it's basically all through like message boards and things like that. It was weird how people were communicating with each other. Right. Yes, there was still, computers and there was ways to communicate over computers before the internet. There was message boards, things like that. So, so that's how we would compare notes. That's how we would communicate with each other. That's how we knew, what other people were doing, how research was going, how ITC was going. There was talk shows out there that you would listen to, and you would tune into those shows to listen to somebody's experiences in a location. They would talk about different researchers they were going to have an investigation, let's say at the Queen Mary. Then they would have a recap of what happened. And then I'll just use the Queen Mary because there was one there, but there was different locations that they would go to. So everybody that was really into it back then would, really communicate with everybody. Everybody knew what everybody was doing, what type of research that what they were doing. EVP was huge, but that was on analog recorders. It
Right.
was nothing digital.
Right.
And then so we're talking about the mini tape recorders, even reel to reel, or you know, a big cassette recorder with a mic, external mic. You always wanted an external mic
Yeah.
with
From the
no
tape
matter,
mechanisms. Right.
yeah, with any type of recorder, even if it
Right.
was a mini tape recorder
Right.
that uses the micro cassette.
Correct. Yes.
Um, anyway, so I was big on doing EVPs back then.
Like
Anyway,
watching.
so yeah,
Like,
so then groups just started coming in and coming in and coming
right.
in, and then it just became like a cesspool. Everybody wants to go investigate, certain locations. I was invited to a couple of big locations that I would have been one of the first to investigate there. I just didn't want to spend the money to go do it.
Yeah.
I wanted to, but then it was like, do I really want to spend like, $800, for, my flight, for food, lodging, things like that, a rental car. I'm like, after a while it was like getting too expensive. And I'm
Right.
like, damn, I could go back to, Edinburgh for that.
Right. Exactly.
And Edinburgh is an amazing place. You guys that live in the UK are so lucky. I wanted to move to Edinburgh. Edinburgh's Scotland is amazing. People there are amazing.
I've heard nothing but amazing things. No matter what, the geography, the people, the culture. I've heard nothing but
Just
great things.
everything, all of the locations that I've been to, all of the people that I've met, towns, I mean, shopkeepers, were just amazing. Just everybody was amazing. And they were giving me secrets. Oh, here, go to this shop, talk to so and so, tell them that I sent you, and talk to them about their ghost stories. And so and locals didn't even know about it. So it was just because all the shopkeepers, if they're experiencing anything, they keep it quiet because they don't want tourists to kind of infiltrate their location. So it was kind of like a secret society type of deal. So I had like notes that somebody would write me, and then they would hand it to me because some of the shirts I was wearing, things like that, they were like, "Oh, are you into ghost?" Yeah. Oh, and then they would write something down and hand it to me and just say, kind of keep it quiet. And I was like, okay. So I was going my because I went for work, but after, so I'd go before work and then after work. I was getting, I think, 4 hours sleep every night, but I had the best time. Anyway, so I got to investigate so many locations that were just like mind blowing, and just the stories I was hearing and things like that. It was just crazy. But with all that said, it's just it's sad to see where the field has come, and that's why I'm just so passionate about it. And and everybody badmouths everybody. There's so much, I guess, competition, and that shouldn't be. There shouldn't be competition. It should be everybody. We should all stem together. We're all doing the
Right.
same thing, but that's not what it's about. And people cry about para unity. Everybody should be united. That's not going to happen. It'll never happen. That hasn't happened since, like, para unity kind of broke up in like 2003, maybe. That's the last time that there was any type of unity. Maybe even earlier.
Right. And I think when you involve ITC is interesting. When you involve money, that's when unfortunately it becomes two separate groups. I mean, when you and I wanted to do this podcast, or when you've gone to locations throughout your life to research, we're in the red. I mean, we've never profited from this. And I think when money gets involved, that's when the competition gets involved to get people's attention. Well, oh, this person had a great session. Now I'm just going to copy some, Michael Jackson's voice and throw it over and one up this YouTube channel for monetization. And that really is the poison of what's happened. And that's why you and I are here wanting to work with, our friends in the chat and say, hey, we'll do sessions with you. It's free. we'll do this. We'll show you what real ITC research is for free. You take the competition out of it. And what happens is you, because there's no direct competition, you start working together, and that's when the community develops. And it started that way very briefly. And then obviously everything went haywire when money, competition, and social media get involved.
No, absolutely. It's crazy. And it's sad, to be honest. It's really sad.
Yeah, Michael Jackson, that's a literal example. People love to copy his voice and layer it on and say that they're communicating with him. And he's a very popular faked voice, and when people are defrauding ITC.
Yeah, and it's sad. I mean, there's so many people that not only defraud, ITC, it's everything in the field. There's too many
Yes.
people that are, they want that instant gratification, like what Josh keeps on talking about. Everybody does.
Right.
I think even at one point I did, before, because I got, like I said, I started it at an early age. Then I kind of stopped doing it. And then when I got back into it, I started looking for things to get me that instant gratification. Because I wasn't getting what I was looking for, I think. And then, just something clicked where, I was using equipment. I had every piece of equipment that would ever come out, I would buy.
I know.
I mean, I had bags and bags and bags of equipment.
I've seen it. Yes.
To where it would take me longer to set up my equipment than I would investigate.
Can I give an analogy really quick?
Yeah.
I'm a lifelong drummer, and I've had to set up my drums on stage before, and I have massive, massive kits where I have 2 or 3 people helping me set it up before a show. That was nothing compared to the equipment Rob would bring in the investigation I went with you with. You had everything past, present, and future. I mean, it was literally like he carried a shop with him, but that's how passionate Rob is about, what we're studying. So I can testify to that as well.
Yeah. So, anyway, so after all of that, then I still had a lot of equipment, but I would only bring a recorder, a static detector, a camera, a video camera, and that was pretty much it. I don't even think I was carrying a ghost box even much, until I got the Andes box that I was carrying around. Anyway, that was all I was bringing. And, and then I started capturing like all this incredible evidence. And then I started doing research on, okay, so this is what, and then I started debunking why people are carrying around, let's say, a millimeter, anything that's going to detect, EMF. Then I started professionally, I got into Wi-Fi, becoming more of like a Wi-Fi engineer, because that was part of my job. I had to figure out what was causing radio interference.
That's always fun. I have to do something. That's always fun.
So then I started talking to electrical engineers, and I would say EMF, and they were like, "What are you talking about? EMF? You mean EMI?" And then I'm like,
"Good point."
And then I'm like, "Wait, what?" And they said, EMF that's radio magnetic frequency. Everything puts out EMF. But when you're trying to detect what is interfering with something, what is leaking in an environment, you're looking for EMI, not EMF. And then I was like,
correct.
And then I was like, wait, what? And then he was like, you watch too many ghost shows.
Right.
And they would just laugh at me. And they were like, are you into the paranormal? And I said, I am. And they said, well, you need to get your facts straight. and then they started kind of telling me different things,
Right.
and explaining certain things. And then they were like, do you know what sets off EMF or what puts out EMF? And then we got on that topic. And then they were like, humans don't put out EMF. Where ghost hunters come up with that, I don't know. And so we're like laughing, and then they're telling me, they said, look, if humans are going to put out any type of some type of magnetic interference, they're going to put out static electricity, because that's basically what we're made of.
As
They're
evidence,
like,
correct. Yeah.
yeah. So then they were like, EMF, that's all man-made. We're not made out of, we're not man-made per se, because EMF is only going to put out a frequency, between, 40 hertz and 60 hertz. Anything higher or lower, that's not EMF. So that's the frequencies that you're looking for.
That's right. And from what I know, again, I haven't investigated like you have, if at all. But when you're measuring a room, to get a proper baseline of the room, you would really need thousands of those meters, every square inch, because electromagnetism doesn't flow in the sense, if you're holding 1 meter in your hand, you can't baseline the entire room, and you can't really get an accurate reading of what's going on at any one given time in every exact location in the room. So it's that's another, we might derail the conversation.
No, right.
That's another show. EM is another show. But you're right. What you're saying in terms of the field has almost created science, which pseudoscience, which has yet to be proven. Well, again, any of this has to be solidified and proven, but we have to be careful with the words we choose in this field and saying something definitely is, or there is a theory that.
Right.
So we have to be careful with those words.
No, and it's funny because, one of the guys said, "Hey, bring in one of your meteors. I want to check this out." So, and then he was kind of laughing and telling me the same thing. He said, "You know what? This is good to see if you can kind of isolate the area on where the interference might be coming from."
Right.
And you can get up to it. And then he's like, "Okay, so see, this is what," and where that all stemmed from was the movie Ghostbusters, because everybody wanted, because when they were making those devices that would light up and stuff, that's what paranormal investigators were looking for. And the closest things that they had were EMF detectors or EMI detectors. Anyway, so
humans like lights. Yeah.
So, but the engineer, he was laughing at me. He's like, you know what? And he said the same thing. He said, if you want to measure this room, you would have to fill up every inch from the whole floor all the way up to the ceiling full of these devices, to get an accurate reading. And it's funny how you said that. And he said, no, there's no way to measure every single inch of this room.
Right. Yeah. It's all estimation, and it's, I don't know if you call it pseudoscience, because the subject in itself is not pseudoscience. How it's being applied and you're taking a guess or a stab in the dark with the interpretation and analysis. And it would be so costly and so expensive to measure at every second, at every place in the room, the electromagnetism. It's equipment that's not available to us. I mean, it's available to people, but it's just very expensive.
No, and like what Wayne is saying too, Wayne is hit the nail on the head. People don't realize.
Yeah, he loved his comment.
People don't realize that a cell phone. So when I was doing all of the RF interference, trying to figure out what's causing issues with Wi-Fi, oh my God, I opened up a can of worms that I didn't even know existed.
Right.
It's anything electronic. I mean, there's cell towers. If you ever do an investigation, there's an app that will tell you all of the cell phone towers in the area. Those cell phone towers, when they're pinging, because anybody that has a cell phone that is on, it's going to start hitting that tower. That tower is going to continually ping that phone.
Right.
And it's going to constantly set off a millimeter. It's going to set off K2 meters are notorious for that. Whenever you see a K2 meter going off, I just laugh. I'm like,
yeah.
oh my God, because they're they're like the biggest piece of junk that anybody can carry.
They'll
Just
constantly go
because
off. Yeah.
they'll constantly go off with any type of ping from any device. So, and then you can also pick up what sounds like an EVP recording when a cell phone is pinging, or if it's receiving a message, and you have a recorder recording. The recorder, it's gonna sound like you just picked up an EVP. It's gonna And what it's doing is it's actually picking up that radio interference,
Right.
and it's picking up that frequency, and it's going to sound like a voice.
And on that same token, I recommend people don't conduct ghost box sessions with a Bluetooth speaker, because the Bluetooth will also interfere with the radio. That's something that's widely propagated throughout paranormal investigations and on TV. And it's one of the first things I can tell you as an audio engineer. I detected that Bluetooth and analog circuit ghost box sessions do not go well together. I recommend, when you can, keeping a solid wired connection to that.
Yep.
And cell phone interference is a huge variable and problem with paranormal investigators. And Rob, you've experienced that more than I have because you've investigated out. But yeah, that's it.
No, and that was one thing that when I was talking to, and this guy that I was talking to, he's a radio engineer also, so he does ham radio operations, things like that.
Oh,
and he does, he's also a pilot, so he showed me like a pretty cool map of like airspace. So he said, anytime you're at an investigation, use this app. So he gave me the app, and so he was teaching me a lot. He taught me so much. So he said, here, use this app, and it's going to show you all of the cell towers in the area. And he said, you have to remember, there's a cell tower for every 2 miles. There's a cell tower.
right.
Some places it's even closer than that. So he said, open this up. If you see any radio towers in that area, good luck.
Right. Exactly.
Good luck using any of your equipment.
Well, and that's real. I always bring up the pioneers and the early researchers. You're going to, hopefully I don't bore you, keep bringing this up, but it's important to know that one of the pioneers, his name is Joe Cioppi, and he worked on the Joe's box, which is very elusive, hard to find, and a fantastic box. In fact, your circuit, Rob, reminds me so much of the way that sounds. That's why I love it so much. He clearly stated in several interviews the best results he ever had when he first designed the radio, or his version of the radio. He was near a computer and it was picking up interference. And his theory, as an electrical engineer, he knows a lot more than I do. He said, when you're doing a ghost box session with a radio, analog circuit, get away from anything electrical, computers, coffee makers, microwaves. I mean, anything that DC, AC, a direct current, alternating current, move away, go out to a field somewhere. That's where the communication comes through the strongest, because there's so much interfering on so many levels. And he was a big proponent of stepping away from electronics to test his boxes, and then come back to his workbench, work on it, and then go back out somewhere where he was away from any possible interference. Well, like you said, cell towers are everywhere. Back in the early 2000s, Rob, I can't imagine there was many cell towers, so he probably had better luck, experimenting with his box.
Yeah. No, cell towers, even back in 2000, yeah, there wasn't very many. And
right.
the way that the radio repeaters worked back then, like in the early days of cell phones, that's why they had an antenna that stuck out, was because of that. Some areas were really weak because there was the repeaters weren't as prominent as they are now.
Right.
And then plus everything now is digital.
Exactly.
They were still using a little bit of analog transmission, I think, at that time, the early days of cell. It was different. Yes. It was just a different technology.
There was a crossover point. Yeah, there was a crossover. I'm trying to think of the years, but yes, where they were switching their technology over. But I don't remember the exact year, but I know that was his advice. And Karen asked, would you suggest not taking your phone into an investigation?
Not at all. Absolutely 100%. Turn it off. leave it off, stuff it in your bag. And if you do need to use something like an app or something, put it in airplane mode.
Right.
When you put it in airplane mode, it's not going to ping. That's something that the FCC implemented, so it won't broadcast.
Right.
And it was for that reason. So if anybody needed to use Wi-Fi, it wouldn't broadcast like during a plane flight because they asked you to turn off the phone.
Right. It eliminates variables if you have to take your phone for a safety reason or you're using an app or something. Obviously, that's you have to consider that at the time. But in general, to remove those variables, it's a good idea. I wouldn't carry it on investigation.
But the best thing to do is if you needed something that used apps or something like that, get a tablet, like an Android tablet or an iPad that doesn't have cell.
Right. Exactly.
Cell capabilities, just using Wi-Fi.
Exactly.
That's going to take out any of those variables.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, it's been a fun show. It's been a lot of fun.
There's
went
always
a little long.
Yeah, there's always a lot to talk about, and we'll get to the shows. We're getting our feet wet. We're figuring out kind of the flow of things, and there's never an end to subjects to talk about, and we have so much to show, and get the experiences from our chat room, and also hopefully get some other people in the field on the show as well, because I know they've got some interesting stories.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I mean, I probably stepped on a lot of people's toes out there, but you know what? It is what it is. I'm very honest and very straightforward. And that's why I just tell people, look, don't waste your money on certain things. Money nowadays is too important, especially with everything that's going on.
Right.
To where people are out there spending their money on things that you really don't need.
Right.
So that's why I say it.
Right. And this show is geared around education and awareness. And, there's no competition here. We're a collective. We're an environment where people can share thoughts. We're not confined to any type of competition here. So it really is a safe environment for ITC research to flourish. And, we'll see where the show goes. I have a good feeling about it because I think people really want to know, okay, I've heard Michael Jackson come through so many times and he says he's great and fine and dancing, but what's really going on behind this? There are a lot of people that want the real meat and potatoes, and they know that it's out there, and they know there's people like us, but it's filtering through. Unfortunately, YouTube is a gateway now for ITC, and the SEO keyword search is all pointing toward people that maybe don't have ITC research in the best interest of mind. So we're going to do what we can to stand out and say, hey, we're here and we'll show you what's really going on. The good, the bad, the honest. Sometimes it's like watching paint dry. It just is, sometimes it's the most exciting thing you'll ever experience.
And do you want to hear the most honest comment that I've heard all day?
What's that?
Suck.
Oh, no.
Analog sweeping radios suck.
Oh, I know a few people that wouldn't be happy to hear that, including myself, but it's hilarious. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Or what about this?
I prefer the portal. That's the best box for ITC communication.
Oh my gosh. It's so accurate. And that's exactly how it sounds. It's just, but you know what? There are a lot of people who maybe got started with those boxes, and that's okay. It's hard to criticize how people get into something, but what's important is keeping the education and awareness there, so that we let them know, hey, yeah, that's fun, but let us show you what's going on over here. This is the real deal. This is what the research is day in and day out.
Exactly. But no, it's been a fun show, and thank you, Josh, for hanging in there. And we went a little bit long, but
that's okay. I love it. I just hope the people in the chat room didn't get bored. I
know I got a little talkative. But...
No, me too. I ramble too. So, yeah. But I think things will pick up, and then the organization of this show, Rob and I will get into a flow to where it's a little more interactive with the audience. We'll show you some cool analog ghost boxes. We'll show you the current stuff. You know, we'll mix it up. It won't just be all of us rambling all the time, but a few episodes with some background, where we're coming from, the idea, and then we've got some surprises planned.
I mean, we can do some. I really don't. I mean, if we get started doing like a ghost box session, whatever, I just don't want it to go long.
It won't stop, right?
Yeah, because it just won't stop.
Well, I think with the way I would like to show some of the analog boxes that I have, you know, you do 2 or 3 minutes, and then, you know, I usually take 2 or 3 hours to review it. And now I'm not saying we do that live at all, but if we show a 2 or 3 minute clip, we could spend 5 minutes just kind of listening back or checking the live, and then move on. You know, just don't dwell on it. So we can keep it kind of short and sweet like that.
Wait, did you just say analog?
I know what's coming. I know what's coming. Don't do it.
Wait, what?
Sweeping radios suck.
Oh my gosh. And in that way, as much as I love your circuit, I will continue to defend analog. You'll push for digital, and we'll have an interesting debate on that. So
I'm just messing with you.
Oh, I know. I love it. Listen, we need humor with this, because it's so hard to be serious about this all the time, especially during these sessions when you're concentrating and listening. And did I hear this? Did you hear this? And you got to laugh, you know, you got to let that energy out sometimes. So
yeah. And if you guys have any ideas on what you guys want covered, please let me know.
Please. Yeah, please.
You know, like I say on my other show too, this is about you guys. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here. So I want to make everything as interesting as possible. I just wanted you guys to know where I was coming from about the paranormal field. Yes, I love the field passionately. But I just don't like the way that it turned, and how things are conducted now. But I'm always doing research on different things. I want to start doing some more research on darker locations. That's something that I've been always curious about. I have a few locations in mind. So, and not the Cecil. The Cecil Hotel's crap. Oh my God. People just need to stop with that place. I've been there a few times, and both times, well, I stayed in the Richard Ramirez room and a couple other rooms, but yeah, and it's like we talked about before.
And this is going to bring a good dynamic to the show, because you'll continue, or you'll go to these darker places and investigate, and that's really what people want to see. And then I'll bring in my experience from the experiments I'm doing in a closed environment in a studio. It's equipment that most people don't have access to. Some of this equipment costs more than my car, so I'd like to feature that on the show as well. So we're getting an idea of what maybe this side, or someone in a studio is doing, and then we'll give the information of what you're providing from the locations. I think it'll be fun to compare notes and see what happens.
No, exactly. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, everybody. So we're going to call it a night, and everybody have a good night. And
thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah. And like I said, give us some feedback. You guys can give me feedback on my Saturday show, or just comment, send us some information. You can do it on my Facebook, or Facebook or YouTube. Actually, do comments on YouTube would be awesome. And see what
someone said set boundaries of time, and that's what I think we're still trying to figure out.
At
least for this show, right? For this show, right? Very good idea.
Yeah, exactly. No, and Wayne, you hit the nail on the head. Yes, there's been. This is what I'm talking about. When you're doing ITC sessions, you have to be very, very careful on what stations you're listening to, what stations are being picked up on. When you're doing forward speech, depending on the sweep rate, there's so many variables with whatever they're picking up about Lisa Lamb and Cecil, whatever. That's been all over the news lately. It's been covered so much lately. if I was picking that up on on the Ghostbox session, yeah. Pardon me. Between now and a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, I would have thrown it all out because that's like the biggest topic in the news. It's just like hearing about, Rush Limbaugh's death, somebody that just passed away, about Trump being, out of office, about what Biden's doing now, all of that, those type of subjects, you just have to take it with a grain of salt and throw it out because those are things that are coming through right now over radio.
Very good point. Yeah, very good point.
But if they're using reverse speech and you're getting that stuff, then you know what? I can't say what they're getting. I don't know where it's coming from.
Right. We'd have to see the whole picture, really.
Yep, exactly.
That's a good point. Very good point.
But anyway, okay. Well, thanks for everybody for watching, and
thank you for your time, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and we'll see you guys next week. And
Take
I'll
care.
see you Saturday.